Joining me now in our studio is Mahjoob Zweiri. He is the director of the Gulf Studies Centre at the University of Qatar. Thanks so much for coming in. First of all, how would you describe the legacy of Sultan Qaboos?
In 3 words, it's how the Sultan Qaboos makes this political transition very smooth in 6 hours. That is the main legacy. This is the man who knows how to move his country from stability to another phase of stability. That is actually the most important legacy of Sultan Qaboos.
Explain that a bit more in detail.
Because basically, you know, previously there are a lot of rumors about there is, you know, he has no son. There is the constitution itself. They say there is 2 letters, different places, and so there's a lot of rumors, a lot of, I would say, hidden stories about what will happen if he died. And there is a lot of, I would say, concern about it. And the first minute, his death announced, people say, who's the next leader? And people, they assume something wrong will go on. His death announced at 4 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, we has the new Sultan basically named. So that is a very fast political transition.
Okay, and we'll talk about the new Sultan. But first of all, this was a person that came to power when his father had left a country where there was slavery was still legal. No one could travel abroad. Music was banned.
Yeah.
And today, Oman is a magnificent country, and diplomatically, it has done so much that we sometimes don't hear about and doesn't make the international headlines.
This goes back to three reasons. One, geopolitics of Oman. Geopolitics of Oman tells us a very important story. This is an open society. This received many nations, many nationalities, many ethnics, many religious groups for hundreds of years. And this affects the life of Omanis. The geopolitics, the region, and the most important thing is the uniqueness of the leadership itself, how to handle politics. Since Sultan Qaboos came to power, he came to power with very clear message that Oman should be modernized. And how to do this is basically to respect the legacy, the history of Omanis, and move on. And that's what he did, basically.
And so we have a new Sultan, Haitham bin Tariq Al Said. He was the former culture minister. These are big shoes to fill, the ones of Sultan Qaboos. Can he continue in the path that Oman has had?
I think he's lucky because he's coming after Sultan Qaboos. This is a challenge for him to prove himself as a leader. And as you said, to fill the shoes. That's important because, you know, let's not forget, the 50 years being in power, there's a lot of things being done. So what he can do now, this is a very stable, modernized country. I think he has to do, he has facing 3 things. One, maintaining what Sultan Qaboos has done and build on that. That's an important step. Secondly, he has to maintain that, you know, Oman in a very dynamic region, very unstable region.
Especially now, the timing, incredible.
And they played an important role to stabilize the region in some stage. And this Oman now has to maintain that role if we assume that he will follow the same step. And the third important thing is the economic challenge. Oman has to look at this economic situation.
And talk to us about that, because according to the ILO, there was unemployment was nearly 50% 2 years ago, especially youth unemployment.
Yeah. You remember 2011, there was demonstration in the context of Arab Spring in some cities in Oman. There was a criticism to the corruption and calling for reform and fighting unemployment. That's the reason, actually, Sultan Haitham was in charge of the Vision of Oman 2040. And he was basically leading a group of international and Omani experts to put together the document, which basically now started. And the most important thing in this document, 3 things. One is basically the governance, inside the governance, and basically tackling the economic situation and the diversification of the economy. And the third element is basically building the human capacity of Omanis and make them more competent in the modern world.
Okay. And internationally, foreign policy-wise, Oman is fascinating because it's been involved in so many big diplomatic spats, but it doesn't make the headlines. For example, hosting the US, or being in between Iran and the US for the JCPOA 2015 Iran deal. We know Benjamin Netanyahu was there. It's hosted Yemen's Houthi rebels. So much, but secretly, why?
In 2008, there was an interview with Sultan Qaboos in Al-Qaboos, a newspaper in Kuwait. And he was asked similar to this question. His answer was the following. We have differences with others. However, we don't add oil to the fire.
Indeed. And
that is, to me, a very clear that if there are differences with others, they have difference with Saudi Arabia, they have differences with other Emirates, but they are not putting oil on that fire. They try to manage it. They try to de-escalate things. And I think that's what they do, basically. They believe in two things. One, stabilization is benefit for everyone. And more important thing, we are share of geopolitics, which will never can change.
Even now, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, given what has happened in January 2020 already, will Oman keep in that neutral path?
I think they will continue. I think they will have this role because they are trusted from both sides. I see them working with Qataris on that path in a way or other to calm down the situation in the Gulf region.
Because it really is a very interesting times.
Absolutely.
And to have a new leader in Oman at this time. Very interesting indeed. And just very quickly, how important would you say Oman is to the West?
Very important. We know that it's very important to the British. If you look at the leaders who went just to Oman to basically to pay condolence to the new leader, this tells you how much is important. Leaders from across the globe, they came in the 3 days just in Oman, and that's to me an important indicator that the West, the world, want Oman to be stable, want Oman to be a very important country and leading stability in the region.
Thank you so much. Mahjoob Zweiri, always a pleasure to have you
so
on
much.
TRTR. Thank you for your time on the Newsmakers.